and that is from the new album StarStuff by the band OVRFWRD, who are on the Zoom phone with me. Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really well. I just had to turn down my monitor behind me. I always leave my monitor on, and then all of a sudden, like, where's that noise coming from? It's like 30 seconds behind me. Yeah. So, how is everything? How is everything by you? The new CD just dropped, and I loved it. I think it's a really, really great CD. Have you gotten any other feedback besides the crazy bald man who lives near Albany, New York?
Yeah, actually, and thank you, Captain Phil, for having us. We really appreciate it, and it's great to talk to you again. We have gotten a little preliminary feedback, although the album hasn't been released yet, technically. We provided to some reviewers and folks, and we've gotten some good feedback so far. It's been encouraging.
I really, really, really love this album, and you know what? Let's start from the top here. There's this like interesting sort of Venn diagram symbol with the moon in the center, a sunset over a placid ocean scene, and a desert in the circles there. What's the meaning of that? What's the meaning of that cover art on the CD?
I'll field that one. It was actually artwork that was presented to us for previous album, and we loved it. And when the idea of this album started to come up, we came up with StarStuff and this whole concept. Even though we're an instrumental band, believe it or not, there's a bit of a concept to the album, and that artwork just fit right in with the Earth and life and moon and the universe and everything else, and it's just beautiful art. So
it almost
came together.
I'm showing my age here. It almost has a Ben Casey feel to it. I don't know if you might be too young to remember Ben Casey, but he had like the symbol for male and female, life and death was part of the opening credits, and that's the circles remind me a little bit of that, but that's like out of left field. But yeah, I like it, and I like the muted tones. It's like an olive sort of green here, and the theme, because we're on the radio, so you can actually see this. But if you go to OVRFWRD, is it OVRFWRD.com, guys?
Yep. Yes.
So it's
yes.
OVRFWRD because it's in their contract they only use one vowel per word. This band. So, but if you look that up and the album, you'll get the vibe of what I'm saying here, because the actual jacket has like a very muted, calming tone to it visually, and then there's like the picture of you guys inside the cover, looking at the radio telescope, and I don't think that's a Voyager probe that's in front of you. I think it's more like a Pioneer. Anybody know what the space probe is that you have on the inside cover?
That's a good question. We'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not a Voyager. I know it's not Voyager 2 or 1 or those, but it looks
right.
like it could be like. It looks a little modern, so it doesn't look like it's from the 60s or the 70s. It actually might be. No, it's too small to be Cassini. Anyway, yeah.
Could be Voyager because we don't like vowels.
Yeah, Voyager. The creator hates vowels.
Exactly.
And do you guys know who Voyager is?
Yeah, you mean from the motion picture?
No, you're supposed to say Voyager is that who seeks the creator.
Oh
yeah. Oh,
come on.
That's why you're the captain, Phil.
Yeah, that's why I can't get a date on Friday nights. Well,
I feel like
go ahead.
I feel like a guy in a red suit.
Yeah. So the overall theme here seems to be kind of cosmic and science fiction-y. The track listing is, I played Firelight, Let It Burn, King George, StarStuff, Look Up, Daybreak, Zathras, which we'll touch on in a few, and from parts unknown. What's the thematic? Where did the space theme come from on this?
It was not planned, I wouldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just started writing songs, and we all looked at the board down in the rehearsal room and went, you know what? There's kind of a theme here. And it definitely was not. We didn't sit around with a beer and discuss, this album's going to have a theme. It just kind of poured out. And I think it was probably, the title and all that. I think it was a reflection of the year we've all been having so far.
Wow.
We're dealing with, here in Minneapolis, the death of George Floyd and
Mm-hmm.
COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was solace in the fact that when everybody's on this lockdown, the four of us were coming down and it was business as usual. And we kind of appreciate, what's real in life and what's really important, So I think it just had this overall cosmic kind of we are one kind of vibe to it.
Well,
Definitely
I tell you, listening to it, 7-8 months into COVID, driving around on the New York Thruway while I was listening to it, with the signs, wear your mask, wash your hands, maintain social distancing. The music put me out of that. It took me somewhere else, and it was like, and usually, I like instrumental pieces. I tend to focus more on the actual instruments instead of the lyrics, the actual music instead of lyrics. But in this case, when I put it in and started spinning it, it like immediately got me. It didn't take, like, sometimes it takes a little while to get it into my skull,
Right.
and really like internalize it and figure out where it's. And this thing was like, boom, it's on, and really the whole setup, I almost want to say it's like sort of like a lyrical thing. It's like a very melodic record. It's very tonal. It's not going into the avant-garde, and it's very listenable. I really, really, really liked it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I think that was kind of a reaction to our last album that we did, because on that record we had bass clarinets, violins, sitars, tablas, and we really wanted to make an album last time that we could expand into as much craziness as we could. So I think in January we decided down in the room, let's make a record. Let's give us, and we initially set ourselves up till May to get this record recorded, but because of COVID, the studio pushed us back to July. Excuse me. So we did purposely set out to make an album in a limited amount of time and do things a bit differently than we did last time, because we didn't go into pre-production and all that stuff. So I think that is definitely a result of that process.
That's interesting, because when I got the CD, normally a lot of artists, because of COVID, are releasing one track at a time, and they're making use of the Bandcamp, and they're doing it like that, and the virtual shows. This thing was in production when the pandemic hit. So the pandemic hits February, March. You guys are probably you were still in the writing of it then, right?
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
So
we actually,
go ahead.
The writing actually went down to July. The piano piece you hear on that was actually, we were stumbling to the last minute on that. So I think that thing was actually finalized like 3 days before we recorded it. But the bulk of the writing was January to maybe May. This album was written, and then it was just about getting it, refined.
So as artists, you're in the creative process, you're doing this thing, and all this stuff is hitting the fan out in the real world.
Yeah.
COVID, the protests, Black Lives Matter, all these horrible things are going on. Hydrochloric, whatever that is, drinking bleach, all this stuff is happening. So did that interfere with the process? Did it inform the process?
It didn't necessarily interfere. I mean, obviously the logistics of the pandemic affected us to some point, but we still got together to write. It took the project in a different direction. You know, I think, like Ricky, you can talk a little bit about, you know, Let It Burn, a song that changed as we went through some of these things that have happened in 2020.
Yeah. So you know, that song is titled after George Floyd. That's where the King George is.
Mm-hmm.
I actually grew up.
You know what? I'm really glad you said that because I did not make that connection. So you know, I looked at it and I didn't think that at all. You know, and I think it's just because there's been such an overkill of horrible things happening. You know,
Right.
I mean today, Breonna Taylor. You know, so it's just
Yep.
been one thing after. It's like I can only be hit in the face so many times before I become shell shocked.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I laid in bed last night watching the Breonna Taylor thing with my spouse, and I'm just exhausted. It
Yeah.
gets old. And the George Floyd thing was a little more personal on two levels because
Go ahead.
I grew up in that neighborhood. The Cup Foods where he was killed, I played video games there every day after school. And I bought my house. My first house was 2 blocks from there, and now I live driving distance about 5 minutes from there. So it really hit home when that happened. And going down to visit the memorial was pretty heavy too. And on the other front of that, the title Let It Burn is actually a restaurant that Mark and I played sitar and tabla at for a better part of the last 10 years, was burned to the ground during the protests, the riots. And the owner of the restaurant, who's an amazing man, Ruel Islam, his daughter, when he saw it burning on the television, and his daughter said, "Daddy, our restaurant's burning down," and he said, "You know, let my building burn. You know, justice needs to happen." And that just really struck me.
I think I seem to remember that in the news when that was going down as well.
Yeah.
The New
Yeah, it
York
got picked up.
Yeah, and he's a great friend of Mark and I.
Wow.
And that really resonated with us. So that's where that title comes from. It's really a personal song, and I think that might be one of my favorite band performances that we've ever recorded. I love how that song turned out.
Yeah.
You know,
Me too.
on a similar note, there's a viral video of a gal talking about the Black Lives Matter protests, and she's very emotional, and she's answering the question, "Why are you burning down your own buildings?" And her answer was, "These aren't our buildings. We don't own anything.
Right.
Yeah.
None of this is
I've
ours."
seen that.
You've seen that one, and
Yes.
you can't watch that thing without tearing up. You
Yeah.
know, and she ends it with saying, "You're lucky we're not coming after you." You know? But the anger and the frustration, and you could feel 400 years of injustice in her voice, you know.
Yeah.
And and there was another gal who talked about the monuments coming down, and she talked about her body being a monument because she is a descendant of slaves and of the things that happened to her. You know, grandparents and great-grandparents. Well, I guess great-great-great-grandparents. You know,
Yep.
and the reasons why she's carrying the DNA in her body. She says she's a living monument to what was done. So, yeah, it's difficult. It's and like you said, it's almost too much that that you can handle. It's almost too much to comprehend.
Hey,
So this must have
I'm
been
just tired.
Yeah, this must
Yeah.
have been really something. So you were able to separate those really tough emotions and get this thing done, because in a lot of respects, as an older guy, I'm like, I thought we were supposed to be living in Gene Roddenberry's future. I thought we were all supposed to be getting along and being our best selves and all this stuff. And I didn't think we were going back to Nazi Germany. I honestly didn't think we were turning around, and going back to fascism and stuff. And it's upsetting, because I'm like, we were supposed to make the world better for our kids, and it's not.
No, it's gonna remain the
Yeah.
same. It's not
Yeah.
good. But I think what we can do is we go down there, we create music, and hopefully give a little something good to the world.
And you do, because I have to tell you, and I'm turn it around here. This album is full of hope. It's full of joy, and it's a really, really enjoyable thing to listen to. And of course, the science aspect of it and the science fiction aspect of it, I adore. It's my thing. But it's for everyone. It's very accessible to everybody, and it makes you feel good. I mean, I spun it twice. I had a long drive back from Amsterdam, New York, back to where I live now in West Coxsackie, because I will only live in a town named after a virus, guys. And and I spun it twice, Well, I spun Zathras like 5 times, but I spun it twice, and because I liked it so much, and it made me feel good, and it took me away for a little while. So that's go ahead.
Really, really cool, and thank you for that. And we kind of wound up looking back at it, going, this is a pretty positive album. There's not a lot of minor, dark. Some of the areas that we've gone in the past. So it's nice to hear that kind of transcended.
It really did, and it's I don't know. It came out. I know you probably contacted me and said, "Can we send you the CD?" And I had forgotten. And it came in, and I opened it, and I spun it, and I'm like, this really, really is like knocking it out of the park for me, And on the same trip, I was listening to the Tangents' new album as well, and they had a song about New Jersey. So I thought, this is great. There's this like brilliant song about New Jersey in the Tangent album, and then there's the OVRFWRD album, where the last time we were hanging out, I was horsing around with you in New Jersey, telling you you had all your gear with you, and like some of the Progstock bands should have an unfortunate accident, and then you'd have to fill in.
Yeah, I remember that. That's funny.
So we're really talking up the album, but we're not telling people how to get it. So can people go on the OVRFWRD website and order it?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's available now. Will the band? You're all socially distant. Are you offering signed copies, or are you just getting it out there to the masses?
If it's requested, we'll sign them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, once in a while someone requests that, and we're happy to do that.
Perfect. You can't see this on the radio, but one of the guys has he's talking to me from the surface of Tatooine. So, how's Aunt Beru?
Hey, you got to have fun with it, right?
Are you drinking blue milk out there on Tatooine? That was the good Star Wars, by the way. The rest of it I don't know about, but yeah, fantastic. Now, so the album is available on the website, and you can get, and it's a real CD. That's the other impressive thing I wanted to talk about, is that you guys pressed a CD because of the situation out in the world and stuff like that. A lot of people are doing a digital only release. It's been a little more effective for them. You managed to push out a CD. It's a nice production, a nice, good looking CD. There are still people out there who like that. And I assume, if there's ever an electromagnetic pulse in the world, that the only people who have music will be the ones who actually were smart enough to buy CDs. And we'll own all the music, so we'll be the new Spotify.
Well, not only that, but we're also in production releasing it on vinyl. And that's just kind of lagging behind the CD production just through the nature of vinyl production.
Cool, and people still liked it. And you know what? This is probably a great sounding, album on the vinyl as well. So it's really something you want to look into. You have a virtual concert coming up from the folks, Ann Rinaldi, Thomas Palmieri, who do Progstock. It's on October 3rd, and you are following District 97. So District 97 is on Saturday, October 3rd at 4 o'clock, and you guys come on at 6. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So how are you doing that? John, I did an interview with Jonathan. It's going to air in the next hour. How are you guys doing this virtual concert? Are you going to be performing live? Are you doing a pre-record? What's the deal?
We'll be performing live. We're going to go into a studio and just mic things up and get a decent sound, and then set up a camera and let it go.
Awesome. Awesome. And I have to
So
tell
yeah,
you
it'll be
something.
100% live.
Have you guys seen any of these virtual shows that Progstock's been putting on via stageit.com?
I haven't, not yet.
Well, it's kind of I'll tell you this. It's kind of a neat thing because it's a lot of fun. Especially, it goes a couple of different ways. You have what you're doing, which is a band setup, which is great because it's difficult to do, virtual. So it's awesome that you're doing that. But in some cases, it's just the artist and a guitar, or the artist and the piano, and it makes it a very personal and different sort of experience than your usual, concert sort of thing. And then you have the bands that make a video, and they'll send a video performance of it, and that thing has usually been tweaked and messed around. So it's never the same thing. But I have to tell you, every single performance I've seen on stageit.com via the Progstock virtual series has been wonderful, and for different reasons. So I really look forward to that. There's a chat room that you can type into. So you know how, guys, when you do a show or when you go to a concert and you're sitting there and you're grooving, you're digging it, and the couple in front of you are chatting because they haven't seen each other in 400 years, so they're catching up. Well, this sort of like alleviates the whole thing because you're able to like type a little bit here and there while the show is going on. And in some cases, the artist will like hop into the chat room and chat with the fans as well. So it's like kind of like a personal thing. It's kind of like if you were performing live in New Jersey at Progstock or New Jersey Prog House. It's kind of like if you decided in the middle of your set to step off the stage and walk around the audience and sit down and have a beer with them.
Wow.
It's kind of like a neat personal thing. It's like Aaron Cliff did it, and so it goes. It goes in different directions like that. So for this concert on the 3rd, go ahead.
I was going to say we're looking forward to it too, just because it has the element of the unknown that all live gigs have. We're at the mercy of the internet and the Wi-Fi and everything else. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a gamble, and we recorded majority of the record live anyway, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be really good.
And you know what? I will warn you about this too. There has been some technical glitches here and there, and the audience and the staff have been very patient and very responsive. And so, if there is a problem, if you have a glitch here and there, don't worry about it. We're used to it. so you don't have to freak out or anything. Go ahead. Somebody else had something to say.
No, I was just going to say, just follow up on what Mark said. Yeah, we're excited. We've been, rehearsing the set live, and we're just going to grip it and rip it. We're actually broadcasting it from the studio, from the same live room we recorded the whole album in. And so that's going to be fun.
You are listening to OVRFWRD on Captain Phil's Planet here on WUSB Stony Brook. The new album, StarStuff, is available on OVRFWRD.com. They will be performing a virtual concert on October 3rd at 6 p.m. New York time. You'll want to go to progstock.com or stageit.com. I can't tell you the price of the tickets because WUSB is nonprofit, but I will tell you that the price of these shows are probably the price of like 2 or 3 cups of coffee at 7-Eleven. So it's very affordable, and you can even, if you have it in you, you can even tip the band while they're playing. So it's something that's very encouraged. Guys, Zoom has just informed me that I have about 8 minutes left to talk to you. So let's get back into the CD for a second. I opened up the show with Firelight. Can one of you tell me a little bit about Firelight and what that track is about?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. So, Firelight starts out with this heavy B3 organ. In the bands that I've been in, this is the band that I've played probably the most B3 in, and it's really grown on me. And out through the course of writing and releasing these albums, I have just really grown an affinity for that instrument. And so, I just kind of got inspired, and I've been listening to a lot of ELP lately, and it just fell into my lap that way.
Cool. Cool. Anybody else on Firelight?
That song is actually one that we had in the works for the longest time. So that one really had a good time to simmer and come together. And yeah, I think it turned out really good. It's probably the most sonically dynamic song on the record in some ways, maybe not, but it goes in a lot of places very pretty quick. It covers a lot of ground. But
Anybody else? Before we move on to, I'm going to play you out to Zathras.
There's a gong.
There's a gong.
yeah, there's a gong.
Okay, finally use a gong.
Yeah.
Oh.
You play the gong like no one I've ever heard play the gong.
Thanks,
Even
man.
on the gong, even the Gong Show.
It's like he's here one day and gong the next. Thank you. Don't forget to tip
Oh,
the waitress.
hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ew.
Okay, so it's irresistible to me not to play you out to Zathras because of the Babylon 5 reference. So please tell me this song is named after Zathras or one of the Zathras from Epsilon 3 in the Babylon 5. I'm begging you, please tell me that's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, you're 2 for 2, Phil, because on the last a couple albums ago, you got Utopia Planitia, and you nailed it right on the head what the reference was for that. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to name the Zathras, and I guarantee you, Phil's going to pick it up right away.
Possibly not the best method of naming songs, but much appreciated. It's definitely not something Suzanne Vega would do, or Bruce Springsteen. But message received and appreciated and loved. Possibly one of the greatest characters in science fiction ever. An everyman, these sort of someone everyone can always relate to, even though he's 110 years old and he's traveled back 1,000 years into the past to fight the Shadow War with the Minbari. So everyone's like, well, what station am I listening to right now? Yeah, so besides the name, we're about 5 minutes out before Zoom cuts us off. Besides the name, what else? Tell me a little bit more about Zathras and what the musical ideas are there.
Yeah, this is the track that kind of evolved. This interesting spacey guitar part that Mark put together was really interesting over this dissonant piano part, and it was just so cool. The first time we played it, I'm like, wow, we got to play those two things together and make it work, and it did, and it was great. And we'd also come up with this really kind of hooky progression that the song kind of gets into and kind of finishes out on, which I kind of fell in love with, and it's just fun for us to play.
Well, guys, it's been terrific. Go ahead.
Can I add this?
Go ahead, jump in.
Quick? This song, we met. It was the first track we recorded for that day. We met for coffee across the street, and then finished our coffee, went in, sat at our instruments, and as soon as our engineer producer was ready, he said go, and we tracked that song in one take.
Wow.
And so it felt really good and right out of the gate.
This song is one take. That is wrong tool. Oh Lord, yeah, we will be having an exclusive interview with Zathras coming up the next 10 minutes, much to my listeners' dismay. And guys, I appreciate it so much, and I'm hoping for a friendlier, happier world with justice and fairness for everybody, and I hope all of us live to see that. I really, really do. Yep. And the story you told about Floyd and the restaurant and everything is very, very touching. And you're not alone. There are a lot of people up here who are with you. I got a kid up in Cantor, New York, who's marching and with the protesters. And every time I talk to Jamie, I say the same thing: if somebody with a gun shows up, go home, because it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And my kid is 24 years old, but my kid is also marching for justice. And if I did one thing right in this world, it was raising them.
Very
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm sure
Thank
she
you,
would
Phil.
you would love to hang with Jamie at some point, you know. But anyway,
well,
go ahead.
Oh, I'd say maybe when we're out east at some point, that'll happen.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
we'll make it happen.
Yeah, make it so. Make it so.
Yeah.
OVRFWRD.com. The CD is StarStuff.
Yep.
StageIt.com
or Progstock.com. There's the Facebook group. You can chat with the guys on the Facebook group. You can hang out with them and listen to this stuff. And yeah, it's a great album. It's a great CD. Do yourself a favor and pick it up today. I think you'll really, really appreciate it. It's just great stuff. Guys, thank you again. And yeah, and I will see you on the 3rd. Captain Phil will be there.
Awesome.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
safe.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll have you back again. Let's have you back again in a couple of months or two. Okay.
Please do. We'll be more than happy.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Take care. Safe.